Honorable Governor for Sepik.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker. I think, first of all, it's refreshing to see that we were constructive this afternoon. And I want to thank the former Prime Minister for his very reasonable contributions. I think we've passed the buck enough times between governments on the issue of jobs for our people. I remember in 2009, when we were discussing the new LNG project at the time, the issue of jobs came up, but nobody took any serious notice of it. When we were working on Vision 2050, the issue of jobs also came up. I can recall in those discussions that policymakers weren't very interested in it. We always assumed that our people would live in villages, grow their crops, do their little SMEs, and that's how they would survive. So we've kind of carried that legacy for the last 40-odd years. There's been very little attempt to shift our economy and make it into a modern economy. Mipla hangama papap na stuff with the majority of our people living in villages. Now, as each government pushed that out, and now I'm come stuck on the Mipla, it's never been resolved. When we were building PNG LNG, some 14,000 people from overseas came to work here. And then they left. Port Moresby experienced the boom. Today we still have landowners in those resource project areas complaining. All complaining at stop. So I want to come back to this point that it's important for us to be constructive. And I want to thank the former Prime Minister for being gracious in his remarks somewhat. There's another point I want to make. Ogaraman lose tinding osam, this la government come inside, na 6 months behind COVID come up. And the entire world shut down for 2 years. So the loss of jobs during the period 2020 to 2022 is quite reasonable. Plenty company closed down there. Airlines stopped flying, shipping companies stopped moving. So it wasn't only us, it was the entire planet that lost jobs. So I think you may talk out, na talk straight, na look savelo one something cosim this plus one. While many of us are still denying that COVID ever really happened. China only opened its trading facilities 2 months ago. The largest economy in the world only opened 2 months ago. There's a knock-on effect blow China am shut down here, am affecting whole world. You know me blataso. But the fact remains, we've got to figure out a way to do more. The 1.1 billion kina package that went to taxpayers, we have to be honest with that. The people who were paying taxes, who were having their taxes deducted fortnightly, they got some relief. But because the pool of taxpayers is so small, the effect of that tax cut was not felt across the economy. One family doesn't feel him. We've got what? 200,000-300,000 workers in the country in a population of 15 million, 17 million people. That's not enough workers to tax from. Now, mibla or leaders lo here ma senisin thinking blo mibla. We get excited by SME. And we think that SME is the solution. But the problem is, this all SME line ya, all by salim or product blow low side. Who are their clients? The clients are working class people. And if we have very few working class people, then it stands to reason that your fundamentals in your economy don't exist. We need to build that middle class, which we currently don't have. Every economy in the world has a substantial middle class. Mibla lo Papua New Guinea nogat. Our substantial group of people are living in the villages. We educate them. Mibla Salimol Golo school igovana 70,000 of these village people, plus those in urban areas, they finish school every year. Na time all finish, no got work. Our education system trains people to be kind of workers, not really workers, but that's where we're pushing them to. So all of the other agencies of government need to facilitate that process where work back come up. And therein lies the failure. The former Prime Minister raised an important point. Our government revenues have increased substantially. That's all. Emi no gona karem kaikai. Why emi no karem kaikai? I think that's the question we should be asking. Is it because we're committing too much money to DSIP, PSIP, and all these other things? Is that the reason? Now, I know many of us will not be happy because you miss amas lo DSIP na. PSIP na, you come lo parliament na, you ba check in treasurer. When are we getting our DSIP? But is it having the intended result? All these projects that we are working on in our respective ministries, in our provinces, are they having the result that we think they should? Suppose no God, there's got to be a reprioritization of the budget. That is our key document. Whether you are in opposition or government, our key operational document is the annual budget. Now, suppose you be approving one blood now inside Lohap, now this money come up. That money, plus the funds we raised from our loyal taxpayers, must go back towards providing services. Not just services. Now, I think I want to think you need los anisim now. Plenty all road now when I'm something you make him here. I'm all blow service delivery tasol. They are not economic roads. The bulk of the spending of government is on services. We are not spending on the economy. Now, behind you become a debate can law economy. Who is going to be funding that economy? The Treasurer in his last report indicated only 900 odd million kina out of a 24 billion kina budget was intended for the economy. Not even 1%. Therein, I think, lies the fundamental problem. You may build him all rot. Connect PNG is a brilliant program. We are negotiating bilaterals with countries like Indonesia and China that you may by salim samla something ego. What are we going to sell to them? You may talk, okay, buy me 50 more cow lo here na golo. Indonesia. Well, who's producing the cow? What are we doing to help that person to produce the cow that we want to sell? Where's the palm oil? Are we taking the steps to produce the palm oil so that we can have the 1 million liters of palm oil that we can sell to China? No, Katia. We are not actively intervening, Mr. Speaker.
Governor, you got a point of order? What's the point of order, Member for Kokopo?
Acting Speaker, you know, one plus something, but we like him by road law, economic road. I must withdraw him this last statement. That's the vital and important building and constructing the roads in Papua New Guinea. I must rouse him that's all not talk all same. You can talk na pala. Me plus apply need him road, lo build him economy, cacao, copra, everything. So I'm that's all. Acting Speaker.
Member for Kokopo, your point of order is in order. Governor, withdraw your...
Mr. Speaker, I think Emi misunderstand him talk me. So I'm all right. Behind you, we can talk aside. The debate is this. Jobs need to form a core part of the government agenda going forward. And I think that's the crux of my debate. So it's really good to see. I've been in Parliament, I'm number 6 year blooming now. I can honestly say that in the first 3 or 4 years, there was hardly any discussion on jobs on the floor. But I've seen in the last 2 years, plenty talk lo jobs come up now. And I think that's an important genesis that we are seeing in terms of the thinking of the House. Because the demand is coming from outside. When we were working on MTDP number 2, and we did the consultations, plenty papa mama only sanap na only talk. You play no got jobs inside lo MTDP 2 blow. I am a mother, I am a father, my child is graduating, but you play no put him walk inside lo MTDP 2 blow. But none of the policymakers took that into account at the time. Now I think we are working on MTDP 4, if I'm correct. I'm hoping that online bloimi design im MTDP4 ya, inside lo MTDP4, there will be a significant shifting or prioritization of funds towards jobs in MTDP4. Because that is the guiding document for government, or it ought to be, in terms of framing the budget. We have to be framing our budgets in relation to the medium-term development plans. That's actually in law. If you look at the Planning Act, that's like you lock him inside Nesta. And I think Prime Minister O'Neill, when he was Prime Minister, his government passed that law. And I'm not sure if we've been following it. In any case, who said online now, suppose you all policy makers planning, you harim stop. I'd like to see when MTDP4 is presented that there is a significant component that talks about jobs and how we get those jobs. Beyond just roads and bridges and classrooms and drains and toilets. Jobs must form a part of that equation, a part of that discussion. So, coming back to IMF, I've always complained on this floor that you may not check and balance the system, the government, and that's true. And I'm happy that if an external entity like IMF can place some conditions on us to force us so we can do things like ICAC, so we can prosecute corruption, then why not? All got agency, you got corruption inside. You sabe lo desla. We need to fix it.
Governor, you got a point of order here, Prime Minister.
With respect, I just want to have a insertion into the ICAC debate. ICAC is a classical example of the 32 measures that this government initiated and IMF endorsed. There's a difference with IMF imposed and IMF endorsing. We initiated the 32 measures, including setting up ICAC, based on the credibility of the reform we proposed. They endorsed. So get this correct. IMF never imposed. We proposed, we set up, and they endorsed what we proposed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Governor.
Thank you, Prime Minister. It sounds better when it's proposed. So and I'm glad that we initiated it. And as you know, Mr. Prime Minister, I was one of your key supporters for the passage of that bill on this floor, as you know. After a whole bunch of members of Parliament ran away within a day of us passing the bill. In any case, that's another story. We've got to improve on our record, particularly law agencies, Saidil one time, issue block corruption. We've got to fix our procurement processes. We've got to look seriously at how we are contracting and how we are getting results, because ML CPs come up with this lahab. So I just want to conclude by saying that there's a lot more work that needs to be done, Mr. Assistant Speaker. And the fact that we are criticizing less and becoming more constructive in what we are adding to the debate, I think is encouraging. But we've got to build that into something tangible. We can't just keep running to Treasury with our little requests for money. Project, blah, blah, blah. When those little projects aren't adding to things like jobs growth. And the issue of jobs growth must become something that we discuss as a matter of course on this floor. Me yet, to be honest, plenty time you missing on lea totok lo road bridge na classroom misa pilim tired na misa gorasa. We've been having that discussion for more than 40 years. We need to shift our discussion towards jobs of empowerment of our people, not just man or Mary one time. So we start to engage all our people into the economy. So that production blongol, when something only come up in hard work blongol, it's actually adding to our economy. We don't just wait for the resource projects, which are important, by the way. But with these resource projects, EMSA affecting ling line tasol, na EMSA affecting government tasol. Emino sa touching life law garaman merilo, olnar lahapya. So we've got to expand our thinking as a leadership group, and then we've got to start to force our agencies to go down this path. Because until our young people are able to come out of school and have access to equal opportunities, the opportunities need to be equal, regardless of where they come from, regardless of their gender. there must be opportunities that they can walk into or they can aspire to. Because those are the opportunities that we had in our generation. When we were finishing school, you were walking into jobs. These days, our young people aren't doing that. And so we've got to lift our discussions, lift our thinking to a point where we are focusing on those things. Now, me agree also. Plan the unnecessary something you may like walking. We need to stop that and we need to focus on what's important for the people. And what's important for them is jobs and opportunities. And that's going to be a key feature in every single economic debate going forward. Because without jobs, without opportunities for our people, we can send them to school, they can graduate with a piece of paper. If they can't get a job, then that entire 10, 14-year investment has been wasted. And that's no good for the parents, it's no good for the community, it's no good for the government, and it's certainly no good for the country. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Speaker.